If you were to build a country to produce the perfect boxers, what exactly would it look like? A healthy population obsessed with outdoor activities and sporting endeavours, a reasonably high poverty rate creating an abundance of lower income youngsters determined to drag themselves and their family out of a financial hole, past champions to look up to who can pass on their extensive knowledge onto the new generation through coaching methods, and importantly, a government who rewards its fighters with riches for their success. Considering this, I feel the Philippines represents one of the most fertile breeding grounds for elite fighters across the globe. 115 million people, often from lower income backgrounds, obsessed with boxing. The Philippines sit 9th in the number of boxing champions table with 40, a very respectable number. And their boxing history and pedigree is stacked, spanning from Pancho Villa in the 1920s to the golden era of Manny Pacquaio throughout the 2000s and early 2010s. Perhaps Filipinos were always destined to be great fighters. After all, their ancestors effectively fought off the European conquistadors when Lapu-Lapu and his warriors rebuffed Ferdinand Magallanes. I've wanted to make a video on Filipino boxing for some time, not only because I know a lot of my viewers are from there, shout out to you guys, but also because I feel Filipino boxing is a fairly neglected topic on YouTube. I'm not an expert in it, so please let me know your thoughts on the topic in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and now let's delve into it. For the purpose of this video, I define a powerhouse as a country which consistently produces both globally recognizable boxing champions alongside dominating its respective region. In my view, the Philippines should be deemed as one when considering its population size and love of boxing. Yet there's been a constant thorn in the side of Filipino boxing throughout the ages, effectively becoming a graveyard for the dreams of aspiring fighters, namely Japan. In a boxing context, relations between the Philippines and Japan seem to have been frosty from the outset. In 1930, the Filipinos sent a collegiate team to Tokyo to box in the Far Eastern Championship Games. The team included Villanueva, John Gray, Guillermo Lazaro, Oscar de la Rosa, Alejandro Florentino, and Carlos Padilla. But the Filipino squad would eventually withdraw from the competition in protest of the Japanese referees' allegedly arbitrary rulings in the ring. Acting in revenge, 4 years later, 5,000 Japanese students rioted in Manila following an equally questionable call involving a Korean student fighting under Japanese colours. But, in spite of this, the true boxing rivalry between the two had not yet been ignited. Partly because what I like to call the Japanese test had yet to come to fruition. You see, with the Philippines having been acquired by the United States on December 10, 1898, the country effectively became a feeder state for boxing talent over time. American figures like Frank Churchill alongside Eddie and Stuart Tate, all strong boxing enthusiasts, were quick to establish the Olympic Boxing Club in Manila around 1921. This helped cultivate legendary boxing champions like Pancho Villa, Speedy Dado, and Peter Sarmiento throughout the 1920s. And guess what would happen when these fighters established their supremacy in the Philippines? They get their ticket to where the big money was, the United States. Once international fighters made it to the US to compete in bouts, it was, and still largely is, deemed as the pinnacle of the sweet science. Perhaps best exemplified by Filipino Ceferino Garcia's winning of the NYSAC World Middleweight title at Madison Square Garden in October 1939. Filipino fighters effectively had a fast-track route to the big time due to its American affiliation, but that was soon to be heavily disrupted. Two developments happened which would stifle this link to stardom. Firstly, in the 50s and early 60s, Japan started to produce boxing world champions like Yoshio Shirai, fighting Harada, Hiroyuki Ibihara, and Takashi Fuji. They therefore became a credible Asian boxing rival to the Philippines. Secondly, with the Philippines gaining independence on the 4th of July 1946, in addition to Frank Churchill, the key player in bringing Filipino fighters to the US dying in 1942, the natural link between Philippine success and American recognition began to waver. To add to this, Angelo Marino and Joaquin Gonzalez highlight the emergence of promoter and manager Lope Papa Saril as a further hammer blow as he looked to intensify regional competitions within the Asia Pacific, namely with Japan. But what does this all mean, and why has it hindered the Philippines' boxing reputation globally? Let's explore further. The formulation of the Orient and Pacific Boxing Federation in Tokyo around 1952 was a watershed moment for global boxing. Attended by representatives of Japan, the Philippines and Thailand, the event was important as it created a belt specifically targeted at crowning Asian boxers as champions. Adding to this, in 1963 the Philippines along with 10 other countries established the World Boxing Council in Mexico City. This meant that Filipinos and non-American boxers did not have to fight primarily in the US to be judged and refereed by Americans to win a world title. Essentially, they could win a world title outside of the US's shores. But what this move naturally did was pit the Philippines and Japan against each other for the foreseeable future. After all, the Japanese and Philippines matchup just made sense. The majority of their fighters sat in the same weight categories. Plus, the Filipino style of high output, speed and toughness combined with the large proportion of southpaw fighters made matchups with Japanese foes extremely fast-paced and intriguing. So, with the new OPBF belt on the line and Japan's rising economic position and enthusiasm for the sport, it effectively became the central host for Asian boxing bouts. Now, Filipinos would ultimately need to prove themselves in Japan before they could move on to fights outside of Asia and build a global reputation. It's worth noting that a handful of Filipino fighters have done this. Gabriel Elordi Flash won the OPBF title in Japan against Hiroshi Horiguchi, a very feared fighter. He would prove himself many more times in Japan before progressing onto the US for the world featherweight title in 1956. The poster boy, Manny Pacquiao, passed the Japanese litmus test with flying colours, dispatching Shin Tereo in Caracan Hall within the first round. In their book, Marino and Gonzalez state that this victory finally saw the word get around that there was a new surging star in Philippine boxing. Essentially, once you pass the Japanese test, then the world takes notice. But now let's explore the opposite side of the coin. I recently found an academic article published in 2000 by Sachi Takahata. He notes the rising participation of Filipino boxers in Japanese-based fights throughout the 1980s and 90s, but interestingly cites that in 1998, Filipino boxers fought in 100 bouts there, only winning 7 of them, a staggeringly low rate. A quagmire for fighters best exemplified by the brothers Lion and Tiger Ari, 2 very skilled Filipino boxers whose careers stagnated in Japan. Their skillful fighting style was said to have not appealed to the Japanese audience, so they were starved out of fight opportunities or suffered narrow losses on points. As Tiger would later recall, our Japanese promoter told us to go back to the Philippines, as having a foreign boxer was deemed detrimental unless they were a superstar. Tiger would return and revive his career, but Lion's journey was now dead in the water. From my research, Filipino boxers venturing into Japan tend to be nullified in 3 different ways. Firstly, they might be outclassed.
You fucking kidding me, motherfucker?
We've seen an abundance of matchups between the 2 nations, with the relentless, unyielding Japanese style bettering the in-and-out explosive style of Filipinos more often than not. Naoya Inoue has defeated 5 different Filipino fighters during his professional career, knocking them down a total of 11 times in 6 fights. Even since the start of 2024, we have seen quite a few disastrous nights for Filipino boxing. And these aren't just journeymen, with major prospects like Jonas Sultan and Rodex Piala both falling to Japanese foes. Some have labelled it as a curse-like phenomenon, derailing potential Filipino champions before they can even make a name for themselves on the main stage. Admittedly, the country did experience a golden age of boxers throughout the early 2000s and 2010s, with Pacquiao exploding onto the international stage before inspiring further champions like Nonito Donaire, Donnie Nietes and John Riel Casimero. Yet outside of this, the overwhelming trend is that Japan is where Filipino prospects go for their dreams to die. Secondly, they might be cheated. Japanese boxing has regularly been tainted by dubious boxing decisions. Famous Japanese sports commentator Joe Kazumi criticised the stupidity of hometown decisions, pointing to when Japanese journalists and boxing fans criticised the Onizuka Tononsuk world title decision in 1992, despite the Japanese fighter winning. With Filipino boxers regularly relying upon Japanese-based bouts to launch their career, a biased loss can be extremely costly. Filipino boxer Renan Portes received an actual apology from his Japanese opponent Keita Kurihara after losing on points in Tokyo. Take the cases of Argy Tokero and Ray Las Pinas, who were both robbed in the same night by Japanese judges, largely derailing their prospects of securing titles. Unfortunately, this dishonesty represents a further hurdle for Filipino success in the Asian continent, extinguishing many boxers' chances of making it globally. Thirdly, the Filipinos have historically suffered from a lack of opportunities. Takahata's article is littered with examples of Japanese prejudice, not just against Filipino boxers, but foreign mercenaries in general. In a survey from August 1996, 80% of Japanese boxing gym owners were against foreign boxers becoming Japan champions. It's harder to provide examples of this, but Takahata underlines how Filipino boxer Jess Maka was actively avoided by Japanese fighters and promoters for fear of embarrassment. If the OPBF title was on the line in Tokyo, promoters would seek out less skilled foreign opponents and challengers to prevent upsets against Japanese fighters. In more recent times, there's been claims that Inoue has ducked former WBO bantamweight champ John Riel Casimiro, which is not conclusive but does make you wonder whether potential Filipino champions have fallen by the wayside. I haven't made this video to bash Japan or to discredit the skill of Philippines boxers, but I do feel there's a gap in the knowledge of casual fight fans, namely regarding recalling any Filipino boxers bar Pacquiao. But the country has had a rich boxing history, and yet globally renowned names are few and far between. I wanted to make this video to portray Japanese boxing as a litmus test for aspiring Asian world champions. If you pass it with flying colours, the world will start to take notice. America may come calling, permitting you come out of the quagmire of Japanese boxing unscathed. Japan has historically been the Philippines' kryptonite, extinguishing notions of it being widely considered a powerhouse. But now I want to hear what you guys think, especially from my Filipino viewers. Is the Japanese test or curse a recognised thing in your country? Do you lament the country for derailing so many of your star prospects? Or is it seen as a necessary evil to prepare fighters for the world stage? Please let me know down in the comments below. Also, please consider liking and subscribing. I'll see you next time. Cheers.